Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 92. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being here this Tuesday, Steelers Nation, in the interest of full disclosure, because basically anytime we're done recording a podcast, news seems to break. We're recording this on Monday night, not on Tuesday morning. So if anything does happen Tuesday morning, just be aware we recorded the night before. Dave, how you doing? How was your weekend?
It was fine. Didn't about like yours probably. Didn't do much. Didn't do much of anything, which is kind of usual par for the course, though. But thankfully, my trips to Walmart have been a lot less now because I've got everything in stock now back, and I think even the grocery stores are getting some things back in stock after that initial surge right there. But uneventful. Just did a lot of watching a lot of games or whatnot.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear it. I hope that everyone out here listening is staying safe and washing their hands. All right, Dave, not a ton of Steelers news to talk about today, but we do have some things to some I's to dot, some T's to cross. Eric Ebron signing is official now, and I'll admit I was getting a little concerned just because it had been 10 days since he reportedly had signed, and I know that things are a little complicated with everything going on with the coronavirus, but 10 days, waiting for a physical to come in, but he's now signed, sealed, delivers. He's the Steelers, and the Steelers have also signed, and I don't believe we talked about this because I think it broke after Friday's podcast. They've signed another XFL player, Dwayne Hendricks, local product from Pitt, to be either a defensive end or outside linebacker. I think you were looking at him to probably play more outside linebacker as opposed to traditional 5-tech 4-eye.
Yeah, that's the way it's looking like. I think the Bears, I think he spent time last year with the Bears on their practice squad, and I think they had him work as an outside linebacker. And if you look at him on film and kind of look at his body type and all, I mean, I think it'd be kind of a stretch to get him to gain 20 pounds to get him to play a defensive end spot. I think he best fits it out as an outside linebacker, so I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped a few pounds and went the other way. But either way, a Pittsburgh product. I think he started his college career at University of Tennessee. Bounced around a couple of practice squads or whatnot. I think last season he was obviously in the XFL. Most recently, got him what did he have? One sack, I think. One or two sacks in the XFL there. I don't remember for sure what the number was off the top of my head, but now they have I think 5 in total that they've come to terms with, and 3 of those were announced today. The kid out of the safety out of Michigan, Hendricks, and then the long snapper Coots, who was with the team last year during training camp and obviously into the preseason.
Yeah, all official. I like Cannell, the Michigan safety that you just referenced. I think of the XFL guys they've signed so far, and maybe it's a little bit of bias because he was the guy I really knew the most about, Tyreek Cannell, but I think he's someone that may have a shot to make the roster. And obviously safety depth is so just non-existent that just based off that alone, I think he kind of has an inside track.
Yeah, I think I think to date he's probably the name to get the most excited about. Right now, and that's for sheer fact that the Steelers really don't have much on their safety depth chart right now. So until that depth chart grows, then I think he's going to probably be. And look, he was a team captain, I think, at Michigan as well too, and obviously played on a defense. What was it, 1 or 2 years, I think, with Devin Bush was there. So I bet Mike Tomlin knows a little bit about him already, and probably not a huge surprise that he was signed there. And I think it's 1-year deals on all these guys, which I think is kind of obvious here. But the other 2 signings, I don't know when those things are going to get announced here. They might. I think a few of these guys actually got released. Asked to get released from the XFL to give them an opportunity on some of these. So that might be why you're seeing some of these signings come in early on some of these guys. Now, as you mentioned, Eric Ebron, the Steelers announced officially on Monday that they had signed him. His name still hasn't come across the official NFL transaction sheet, though. I think that'll happen probably on Tuesday, but everything sounds signed, sealed, and delivered with him. So I think by the middle of this week and the next couple of days, everything will be put to bed as far as that goes.
Agreed. And again, with the XFL guys, no surprise that they're going to that pool. The offseason roster was relatively light, didn't have a ton of names on it, only 6 draft picks. But I will say, this was common last year too. It isn't special to the XFL. It isn't even particularly special to the unusual circumstances of this offseason. They signed like 5 or 6 AAF guys last year too. So I think that's just par for the course. Some guys with some tape, some known guys that would have been coming in regardless of the circumstances of everything going on health-wise. So, some good depth, some offseason guys, and we'll see what happens from there.
And look, Cam Kelly was one of those guys, right? And he ended up making, obviously sticking most of the year until his little incident later on.
Right. J.C. Hassenauer still with the team.
Yeah. So never say never. When it comes to these guys, and I think as we get further on into the off season here, I'm sure you'll probably do a profile or two on a couple of these guys, and I think there's a little bit of that XFL tape still laying around out there.
Yeah, I'll do some kind of future reviews just to kind of give an overall profile of who these guys are. I want to stick with the NFL, Dave. Something you wrote the other day I think was really interesting and kind of helped put a number to it, although I'll admit, even myself knowing, what Bud Dupree is worth, just to see the contract number kind of made my eyes a little wide. But you have kind of a projection for what a contract extension for Bud Dupree could look like and how that could work with obviously TJ Watt being a slam dunk contract extension for whenever that gets done. Walk us through kind of the extension, kind of your thought process, and how this team could retain Dupree while also making the moves of guys like TJ Watt and the other guys they want to re-sign.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are going to turn their nose or have turned their nose up when they read this already. But the fact of the matter is, if you're looking, if you're talking about franchise tag players, and you're talking about the market, and you're talking about the way the Steelers like to structure contracts, I don't see me being too far off with this. Now, are my numbers going to be exact? Probably not. But I'm willing to bet they're fairly close, assuming they do get a deal done with him. Now, I don't know how much you want to believe what Kevin Colbert has said to date, and he has said that whenever we use the franchise tag, we do so with the goal of eventually signing the player to a long-term contract. I believe them that they want to sign Dupree to a long-term contract. Now, whether or not they can get that deal done is two different things. And time again, as I've said on this podcast over the years, whenever you tag a player, odds are pretty good that play, if you sign that player to a contract, it's going to be for at least the average yearly value of what the tag amount is. I mean, I dare can anybody tell me the last time a franchise tag player for any team signed a long-term deal after getting tagged and ended up having his average yearly value be less than the tag amount? Common sense tells you that that's what's going to happen here with Dupree if indeed they get a deal done with him. Now, obviously, the tag is for $15.828 million. Well, the market for edge rushers, especially with Dupree, I think if you want to put him just outside of the top 10 and maybe one spot ahead of Zadarius Smith, who signed this time last year for I think average of $16.5 million. I think you're looking at Bud Dupree coming in with a average of around $16.75 million on a 5-year deal. And if you do $16.75 million and you times it by 5, you come up with a 5-year $83.75 billion contract projection there. I just don't see. If he accepts anything cheaper than that, I don't see where it would be that much more cheaper. Maybe you can get him at 16.25 or somewhere along those lines. I mean, we're splitting hairs really at that point. Now, the way the Steelers, people, you got to look at these things because cash flow is very important. I mean, look around the league. This just isn't just the Steelers. These are how these big deals are done. Cash flow is very, very important in these things, as is the guaranteed money. And most people should know by now that really the Steelers, barring it being a quarterback, the only guaranteed money they give on these big deals is generally just a signing bonus. So I think you could be looking at, like I said, a contract totaling out somewhere between, 83 to $84 million over 5 years. I think you could see Bud Dupree get as high as maybe a signing bonus of, around $20 million or so. And, just balancing everything out there with the cash flow from there, I think you could see him with a first-year cap hit of around $10 million, and that would obviously be a little bit less than his tag charge now, which is, almost $16 million. But I think in total, you could see Bud Dupree get a first-year payout in 2020 of $26 million, which would be the $20 million signing bonus, a $2 million base salary, and a $4 million roster bonus. I think you could see a deal include a $5 million roster bonus in the second year next March, along with a $9 million base salary. So if you look at the cash flow altogether, you're looking at $26 million total in 2020, $40 million total by the time the 2021 season's up, and a little over $55 million by the time the third season's up. Now, obviously, as long as you don't restructure his deal, you could probably get out of it, without too much, hurt by after the 2022 season. But being as how the Steelers like to put those second-year roster bonuses in there, there's a good chance that he'll be moved to the front of the line as far as possible restructures go, as long as he doesn't just fall off the face of the earth in 2020 there. And I know a lot of people saying, well, I don't want to tie up that money in Bud Dupree because it'll mean they don't sign T.J. Watt or next year, let's say Juju Smith-Schuster. They'll be able to do all that, folks. Where there's a will, there's a way, and they're going to keep the players they want to keep, and they're obviously going, they're not going to do anything with Bud Dupree, obviously, and jeopardize them being able to get a deal done with T.J. Watt. I think the jury's out right now on Juju just for the sheer fact of the season that he's coming off of right now. I mean, he's in the final year of his rookie contract now in 2020, and it doesn't look as though they're going to get a deal done with him right now. So that would mean after this season, assuming he has a bounce-back season, they're probably going to have to place a franchise tag on him and then work out a new deal with him, later next summer if things go that way. People need to stop worrying about, well, if they do Dupree, they're not going to be able to get Juju or Watt or and really that I think the line kind of stops there. I know a lot of people are asking about Mike Hilton and Alejandro Villanueva, but realistically, odds are good that 2020 is going to be the last year both those players play in Pittsburgh anyway. So I don't know. You've heard me talk about it now. You've seen the layout of the contract. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think you said that really well, Dave. I know that when you see the numbers here, and as I mentioned when I asked you the question, 5 years, let's call it $84 million. I mean, that is such a huge number to think about, but that is the going rate for pass rushers. It is not cheap for guys that can get after the quarterback, that get double-digit sacks, and guys that play as much as Dupree has. So that is the going rate, and I totally agree. I mean, you're not going to pay him less over a long-term deal than what the franchise tag is. I doubt you could find someone that would be an example of that, and I don't think that's going to be the case for Dupree no matter what. But I think, again, the perspective is important, is that you can re-sign Bud Dupree, you can extend Bud Dupree and re-sign and extend out T.J. Watt and even Juju Smith-Schuster. You could as well, especially if the cap does rise in 2021 like we expect it probably will, maybe 20, 30, even $40 million best case scenario. So my question would be, and I guess it's hard for us to answer, is just what is their cap allocation? Are they going to be able to are they willing to allocate all of that money to the outside linebacker position, and kind of how they make things work with their current projection and future projection? I guess that would be the question.
Yeah, and I would answer that by saying I don't think they look at a position and say, well, we can only allocate this amount of money. You pay the player, you pay to keep your good players, regardless of the position that you pay. Yeah, I mean, or position that I don't, whatever position is due there, because that's the way the Steelers are. They want to keep their keep their good players, and obviously, unless Kevin Colbert's just feeding us a bunch of malarkey, and the only other way, and look, I mean, yeah, you could offer Dupree a deal that, let's say, only averages $15 million, but you've got to entice him. You've got to give him some incentive to sign a multi-year deal, as opposed to playing underneath the tag this year.
Sure.
And
I don't disagree with that.
And that incentive really is going to come around, come with the aspect of virtually guaranteeing him around $24 million in 2020 alone. Other than that, he's not going to have much of an incentive to sign a contract. And once again, look, I don't pull these. I don't just magically pull these numbers out of thin air. These are all well researched based on past franchise tagged players and what the recent market is for edge rushers and all is on top of it. So I'm just not coming up with these off the top of my head. I mean, I spent a good couple of hours trying to formulate what a deal for Dupree would look like and what would be fair and how the Steelers would structure it. And this is exactly what it looks like, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that one bit. I think this is a fair way to look at it. I think if someone's trying to think you can get Dupree for 13, 14, even $15 million per year average yearly value, that's just not going to happen. I think the question would be, do you just not sign him at all and just say that you tag him for 1 year, you get what you get, and then move on? I think that'll be the argument that's more well reasoned and more well grounded, as opposed to let's try to get him for cheaper than that. Just saying let's let him walk and sign Watt and find a way to replace Dupree for a whole lot cheaper that way.
I think the only way that happens is if Dupree's demands are astronomically high. If he comes in, he's wanting a deal for $18 million, 18 or more, a season now, and he's wanting somewhere in the lines of, I don't know, 26, 28 million in first year. The Steelers are going to be fair with you. They're not gonna pay more than what they deem the market value is for the player. And right now, because of the tag amount, look, we there was a time there we thought the tag was going to come in at 16.3 or whatever. Well, obviously the tag came in under that because of the cap number coming in a little bit lower than expected. So, when you look at the tag amount, and then you tack a little bit onto it, and plus you look at the edge rushers around the league, what the average yearly value. Heck, I think it was a year ago that Eric Armstead with the 49ers, his deal averages $17 million a season, and obviously Zadarius Smith a year ago, his deal averages 16.5. So I don't think it's out of the question to expect Dupree to be slotted maybe right in between the middle of those two. And even go back to last year to D Ford. Wasn't D Ford a tag and trade player? Well, he ended up. He ended up making, his new contract ended up being $17 million a season as well too. So the evidence is there, and I think it's silly. Whether or not people think Dupree is worth it is one thing. I mean, there's people probably hollering right now saying there's no way I pay him $16.75 million a season. Just there's no way I do it. Well, I hate to tell you, that's his market right now.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here because I think we're basically in the same camp. But I think what people would say is that, okay, that might be what he's actually worth on the market and what you would have to give him to do a long-term extension, but just that he's not worth that money whenever we watch him play. The typical fan watches him play. So, and that would be, I think, the argument against, as opposed to that's too much, let's pay him less. That doesn't make as much sense, but just the idea of he's just not worth that kind of money.
Well, I mean, that's for the Steelers to decide here, and once again, I can't see Dupree settling for much less than $16.75 million per season.
I agree. I think Zadarius Smith is the floor. He's not going to take less than what Zadarius Smith got a year ago.
Right. I mean, look. I mean, people are going to be hollering. There's people saying, I guarantee you that. Let me ask you this: assuming they get a deal done with him, What do you what do you see his lowest average yearly value being?
About 16.75, just above Zadarius Smith.
I mean, in no way do you see it being lower than a tag, right?
No, yeah, I said there's no way. I mean,
Okay.
as you said, what's the precedent for that? Doesn't make sense for Dupree to do that with a cap going up, expected to go up again. As I said, I think that projection is going to, assuming this deal gets done, or if this deal gets done, I think that projection is going to be really, really close, at least in terms of overall yearly value. And I think just with the contention, Steeler fans and the retort Steeler fans would have is just saying that Bud Dupree is not worth that money, even if that's what the market tells him he is worth.
Right, and I think that's the argument a lot of them have. But people think people think that I'm extreme pro Dupree just because I throw these contract numbers out here. Look, I'm going to get paid either way.
Right. The story either way, either he signs or he doesn't. It's a story for us.
Right. Yeah, I'm just and look, I think at this point, the thing is how you get. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to replace this guy with as good a with the equal or better quality right now. Yeah, you obviously would hope to maybe get an edge rusher in the draft, but what if you don't?
Yeah, that's fair. If a deal does happen this summer, I mean, they wouldn't carry this in the next off season or after next season, would they?
Well, no, you have a deadline. July 15 is the deadline to get a deal done.
Oh, yeah,
with him.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'm saying, okay, let's say they don't get a deal done. He plays on the tag this year. Do you think he's going to just then hit free agency after next season? Or do you think they could still work out a long-term deal after next season?
They would have to tag him again, and then we'd be back in the 120% over the tag amount again. So, and that's the other thing is they've got to make it lucrative enough in the first 2 years, cash flow wise, to deter Bud Dupree from trying to go back to back tags.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the player wants a security here. I mean, he's looking at 15.8, whatever the tag is now, right? He had, if they, is there the opportunity? He could potentially have the opportunity to earn 24 this year. 24 million with bonus and all base salaries and all like that. So that's where the enticement comes in. People say, how in the heck are you going to give a guy $24 million in 2020? Well, go look at all the contract structures around the league and how they're structured, with that first year money being extremely greater than what the average yearly value is on that. So mark my words, you can play around with the numbers a little bit. Maybe you slide the signing bonus down to 18 million. Maybe you give him a little bit more base salary to make up for that. But when the dust settles, I really think that you're going to be looking around 16.75 yearly average, and I think you're going to be looking, give or take maybe $1 million on each side, $24 million take home in 2020.
I'm with you, Dave. If you had, I know it's arbitrary, but if you had to put a percentage on the odds of a deal getting done before the 15th deadline, what percentage would that be?
I mean, it would be greater than 50%. What did I say the other day? Like 70, 75%, 80%? I mean, okay. I don't think.
And you base that off of Colbert's comments?
That, and I don't think Dupree's going to be unreasonable. Look, Le'Veon Bell wanted more guaranteed money, right? I don't think Le'Veon Bell was upset about the average yearly value as much as he was upset about the structure and the guaranteed money. Now, as long as Dupree doesn't get upset over, basically only, having, only earning maybe potentially $24 million in 2020, I think he's going to be fine with it. I mean, obviously, this is not a premier NFL player, So barring him not balking on this and being unreasonable, like I said, and demanding $18 million per season and 28 million in 2020, I think they can get a deal done. I really do.
Yeah. And again, as you said, this would not prevent them from signing T.J. Watt to a long-term deal either, correct?
No, yeah. I mean, look, I mean, yeah, Dupree. I mean, you see the cap hit layout, on this thing. And all you have to do is this time next year, if you need the cap space, is turn that $5 million roster bonus of that's due Dupree in March, along with with about $7.5 million of that $9 million base salary, and combine that together into a signing bonus. You can lower his cap charge. The Steelers have the cash. It's all about whether or not they can make the cap work. And we just got done with watching them push 20-something million on into next year. That's just that's how they massage the cap, like it or not. That's how they do it, and that's why as soon as that 30% rule went away with when they voted on the CBA, it was business as usual. Now, did they restructure a couple more contracts than what they do in a normal year? Yeah, but they're still going to have enough cap space and cash to pay both Juju and Watt next season if they get a deal done with Dupree now, and if they get a deal done with Hayward at some point this summer, which they should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I think that was a really good way to lay that out. And I know that number looks big for Steelers Nation. I saw some of the comments to it, but that is what Dupree's going to get, whether that's in Pittsburgh or somewhere else. As long as he plays well and has a similar year in 2020, that's what he's going to get.
I wish I could put some. I wish some of these people in these comments would put their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think you laid that out really, really well, so I appreciate that. And if it gets done, then I think we'll look back on that projection and say that was pretty close, within, a couple million of it being right on the nose of what Dupree ultimately gets.
And we'll know by July 15th,
Right.
Because that's the deadline.
Yep. I want to transition now from the NFL and the current Steelers roster to the potential roster with the draft just less than a month away. And that was interesting. And I don't want to call it a report, and I honestly haven't even seen the exact text because I don't have a subscription. But according to Ed Bouchette, he at least expects the Steelers to draft a running back in April's draft. Again, I did not see the exact comments. I don't know if you did, Dave. I just saw the report, and on, I think, Roto-World it said that Bouchette fully expects them to draft a running back. What's your reaction to that? Let's call it news, I guess, and speculation, I suppose it was from Bouchette.
Yeah, it's only just a one-line opinion in his in a question and answer, segment and all like that. So, I mean, you know how I feel about it. I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen. I'd be foolish to say that they're not going to draft a running back this year. All right, but as we've said, or at least as I've said, if you're going to draft one, you damn sure better draft one at 49 overall. You better get a good all-around one that you get on the field right away. What do you think Ben's going to think about putting a rookie back there right away with him?
I don't know. I don't think he'd be. I don't think he'd be that mad about it. Getting offensive help, I'm sure he'd be open to that idea.
Yeah, I bet he wouldn't be thrilled about it personally.
Well, I mean, you're going to draft a receiver. You're going to get a rookie receiver him to throw.
Yeah,
to.
But you're also not going to ask that receiver to come in right away. Whereas with a rookie running back, if you spend a second round pick on a rookie running back this year, you better get him on the field right away. Whereas a wide receiver, you don't have to. Let's face it. The plan wasn't to get Deontay Johnson as much playing time as he got last year. You were hoping that eventually he'd win out and develop and get that by mid-season. But thanks to Dante Moncrief being a dumpster fire, and thanks to Juju being injured, and everything that went along with that ended up getting Deontay Johnson on the field quicker than what they probably expected would happen. Now, obviously, that experience is good for him. It's going to benefit him in the second year, but look, my personal opinion is the position is fungible. I think you can still piece together whatever you have here with Connor and Benny Snell and Samuels and whoever else maybe, and piece that together. And yeah, I realize Connor hasn't been the picture of health and all like that, but damn, why the hell did you spend a fourth round pick last year on Benny Snell then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we both have made our opinions very clear on we're not really open to the idea. I guess I'm more thinking about it in the reality of is it going to happen? Because I imagine the smoke will continue to blow around until we get to the draft. And I think Bouchette's rationale was, we'll draft running back now because they're not going to re-sign James Conner. He's entering last year's rookie deal. And I think it's more likely than not that Conner will not be re-signed, but I'd rather draft one next year. I'm all for drafting running back potentially next year, assuming the Conner is not back on a contract extension on a long-term deal, because running backs are so plug and play, and I don't have to draft one in advance as opposed to receiver or tight end or some other skill position where I want to get a year ahead of that. I mean, running back is the most plug and play position that there is, and so I don't feel like I have to draft one to get ahead of Conner being gone after 2020, as opposed to a receiver or tight end where I want to be a year early on those guys so they're ready to step in right away when X player leaves.
Look, I'll worry about next year. You know, we're all day to day, brother. You know, and
Right.
and you know, my theory is on this too. Look, I mean, Benny Snell wasn't awful last year, and he's probably going to be in even better shape, or at least he better be. You know, he's probably going to be slimmed down a little bit more this year. You know, kind of that second year. You know, we saw Bell go through it. We saw Connor go through it. We saw Samuels go through it. You would expect Benny Snell to do the same thing. You know, his successful run rate last season and his limited playing time wasn't bad at all. You know, the thing is, I think Benny Snell too is the kind of guy that needs to warm up a little bit, and you just need to ride him a little bit, you know.
That's it. He's always been that. Kentucky, he was the guy. Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest disconnect there is between fans and coaches in terms of how the team feels about him is Benny Snell. I think this team really likes Benny Snell and thinks that he can be that workhorse back.
I agree, and if they didn't, somebody needs to answer for draft him in the 4th round last year. Because if you turn around right now and draft a back in the 2nd round or with your compensatory pick in 3rd round, what does that say?
Yeah, it doesn't speak highly of either guy, for sure. I mean, it would certainly speak to Connor not being here after next season, and Snell, it would say that they don't think he's going to be the guy.
And then that's a wasted 4th round pick. You know, I'm okay with looking back and saying, all right, that 5th round pick didn't work out. That 6th round pick didn't work out. That 7th round pick didn't work out. Whatever. But man, it really burns me up to see a 4th round pick or higher not work out. You know,
I'd be curious to see what the history is there. Have they drafted somebody in the 4th round or higher, and then drafted the position again the next year and say the 3rd round or higher? I have no idea, but I'd be curious to know the numbers on that.
When was Joshua Dobbs drafted?
That's a good. Was he? Yeah. Oh, was he 2 years before Rudolph or 1 year before Rudolph? I don't remember.
He was a year before Rudolph, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so then, but yeah, in their estimation, I mean, Dobbs was the backup, and Rooney basically, as soon as they drafted Dobbs, they said this is not the heir to Ben. This is like the backup, hopefully, to Ben longer term. When they drafted Rudolph, they said this is the franchise guy. So, I mean, I guess there is history in that. Maybe their thought is that Snell is Dobbs, and he's going to be a number 2, never the number 1. And if they have a chance to get a number 1 guy, then they might jump at it. I mean, that might be the rationale there.
Then that'll have me super upset then. Because, look, we already know who they bypassed Dobbs for
Never hear the end of it.
To get Dobbs, right? And then, well, I guess it wasn't a year later. It was 2 years later when Mason Rudolph, right?
Oh, it was 2 years.
Wait, hold on a minute. No, I went the wrong way. No, it's 1 year after.
Okay.
Yeah, Rudolph was 18. Dobbs was 2017.
Okay, so 1 year apart. So yeah,
and look, I mean, I wasn't totally upset about them going after another quarterback last year because I had done a full contextualization on Dobbs, and to me, he looked every bit of a backup. You know, right from the get-go there. My only thing was, man, why if you knew this guy wasn't going to be the guy, then why did you spend a 4th round draft pick on him?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I guess the counter to that would be even if we admit that we screwed that up, maybe we should have taken a Benny Snell. You might as well just fix the problem and just get the guy, and as opposed to not hanging on to this guy, we feel like that he's not going to be the number 1, or we see someone else that is so good that we are so.
I understand. I understand you make mistakes. Yeah,
right.
but I mean, I mean, but we're going on 3 years in a row drafting a running back, 5th round or higher, 3 years in a row, and now you want to make it 4th year in a row.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the idea would be so that even if
your scouting department who does the running backs needs
hanging out with a cornerback
need some adjustment there. And look, what do we know about Benny Snell right now, Alex?
Well, as I said, I think he had a really good year last year. I was really impressed, and I think the thing we forget about is the conditioning, how good of a shape he showed up in, and the fact that he had knee surgery midway through the year and actually came back and played well after that. I mean, there were so many. The deck was so stacked against him when the guy played so well. And as I just said, I think the biggest disconnect is that this team really is high on Benny Snell, and the fan base might not quite be there. And so that's why I think the odds of them taking running back is a lot less than maybe some and fans and even some like Bouchette and the media might seem to indicate. So I don't know, but. If they fall in love with a guy at 49, will them drafting Benny Snell in the 4th round last year stop them from drafting Jonathan Taylor if he hypothetically falls? I don't know, and it'll be very interesting to find out.
And what are you going to have? 3 bruiser backs and a fullback and what?
Mm. I mean, they've gone big with the backfield for years now, so I guess it wouldn't be that much of a difference.
Yeah, I just look, like I said. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not going to happen, but I'm going to be short one TV in this house if they draft one in the 2nd or 3rd round. That's where I am on it right now. I think you need to see what you can do this next season with the combination of Connor, Snell, and or Samuels and or whoever Gareth White, whatever or you want to draft a 6th round kind of scat back that can catch the ball out of backfield. Have at it, But
I'm more against that idea, to be honest, because I just don't want to add another guy to the group, But I do think a guy like Antonio Gibson is someone I've talked about a lot, someone that's like a very hybrid player, very dynamic kind of guy. That's like Jalen Samuels if he was good. Like that's the kind of guy that I'd look for. So I'd be open to that or going all in on the position. I'd hate for them to draft somebody in like with that 6th round pick, 7th round pick, that's just kind of a guy that just feels like he's going to muddy an already muddy running back situation.
And whatever running back you draft in this draft, you're odds are good that you're going to be throwing them on the scrap heap 4 years from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other concern too. And then the other question is just who. I mean, it's not that this running back class isn't talented. It's a really good running back class, but we know the Steelers have a type at running back. They like these big backs, and if Jonathan Taylor doesn't fall, and I still think the odds are pretty good, he's off the board before 49. Who are they going to take? Who kind of fits that mold of that big Steelers back, assuming they stick with that type? And that list is kind of short.
Yeah, I don't think they're just going to go down the list and say, well, he's gone, here's the next running back,
Mm-hmm.
No, because they do have a type, and really probably they, assuming they even put some running backs on their draft board, there's probably going to be about 3 or 4 total on there. That had hearts and smarts and
Mm-hmm.
and fit the profile and everything that goes along with that. So it's not just going to be scratch the name off the list and NFL Network's list and then go to the next one.
Sure. I just really wish we had the pro day and the top 30 stuff because it would really help clarify the situation. Because obviously they were showing a ton of interest in the position. Then that would obviously I think change our discussion a bit. And now it's just kind of fog of war. We just don't know where their head is at.
And what are you going to do? You going to draft one that can run behind a fullback?
Well, I don't know how many college running backs know how to do that. The fullback really isn't used, but that wouldn't really.
Well, then why the hell did you get Derek Watt then?
Well, I think a running back would be fine with running behind a fullback and would adjust pretty quickly to an extra blocker.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Do you think that would be an issue?
I just think it's like anything else. Not all of them can do it.
I think any running back you're drafting at 49 is going to be okay running, but with a fullback.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. I am a lot less confident in them taking a running back as Bouchette, and I think most of the media believes that they are. But we'll see.
Yin's listening to this podcast that are hoping for a running back to get drafted. You better hope you get one, because if you don't, I'm gonna be running around with the checkered flag for a few weeks there. I'm gonna be even more obnoxious than I am now.
Yeah, some electronics are going out the window on draft day. Either Dave's TV if they draft a running back, or
Phew.
people's laptops if they know that they didn't draft a running back, and Dave's going to gloat about it.
What is your honest, where you sit right now? Give me the percentage chance of them drafting one.
At all, or on day
In
two?
the first two picks.
25%. I mean, that may even be a little high.
Yeah, I think that's to me, that would be the absolute pushing it percentage.
Well, where
right
are you at?
I'd be right around, 10%, 12%.
Yeah. It's just tough this year because we don't know where their head is at, and we rely on some of this information, pro day visits, pre-draft scouting or top 30 visits, all that stuff, and we just don't have that this year, and it makes it really difficult because I mean, Bouchette, talking about Rooney's kind of mandate to fix the run game, and obviously Connor's health, and he's not going to be here probably a year from now. It's hard to say. I find it a lot more unlikely than like 95% of the media. But I don't want to discount it entirely, and it is a difficult situation to try to re-engage.
If you don't, and if you do draft one, you don't hit. Oh Lord!
Mm-hmm.
I mean, four running backs in 4 years. I mean, I already wasn't a huge fan of the Jalen Samuels. I understand the Samuels pick. I wasn't a huge fan of it though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know how I felt about it at the time. I guess I was okay with it.
I knew he wasn't a tight end.
Yeah, I just hate it because I get asked about it every 2 weeks, and Jalen Samuels played tight end, and I'm just mad at them for drafting him for that fact alone.
Yeah, well, now that's been supplanted with can Derek Watt play tight end.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we get some more information here prior. It'll be very interesting though. Okay, David. Any other thoughts with running back, or do you want to move on here?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it no more.
Okay. Let's move on to another skill position with the wide receivers. For Monday morning on Steelers Depot, I did began my 2020 installment of What the Steelers Look For study. It's one of my favorites.
I love these.
I know Dave loves it. I get a lot of good feedback on this, so I was happy to bring this for a Monday. Wanted to start with a flashier position with the receivers, adjusted our numbers a little bit, and basically just the way we look at it is just since under the Mike Tomlin era, 2007 to present day, what are just kind of the thresholds they look for at a certain position? At wide receiver, what are kind of the minimum heights and weights and 40 times and 3-cone stuff and all the information we have available? These aren't averages, these aren't ideals. It just kind of feels like, where is their benchmark? If a player is shorter than X or worse than, times worse than X in some drill, it seems to be like they don't draft that kind of guy. And so we go through the combine numbers, and this year's obviously tougher because we don't have really any pro day information at all, and a lot of guys don't participate in drills at the combine. That's a source of frustration for me, but you can check the whole study out on Steelers Depot. It's easier to read it than it is for me to explain the whole thing. But there were two players at the combine, two receivers that checked every single box, 9 categories of what they look for. And the two receivers are Michael Pittman Jr. from USC and Freddie Swain from Florida. And the fact that I see Pittman Jr. on that list, knowing the USC connection the Steelers have had with Lynn Swann, and his dad was Michael Pittman, who Tomlin coached in Tampa Bay, it really kind of makes me think about including Mr. Pittman Jr. in my next mock draft.
What were you surprised at some names that did not fit?
No, I try not to go in with the mindset of that, and a lot of these guys again just don't test, and that is one flaw. Yeah, I mean, half these guys don't do the shuttle drills, and that automatically disqualifies them. And so maybe I should tweak the study for the future and figure out a way to adjust for that. But there were some that were close. I'd have to look at the whole list and see if some names I thought like Devin Duvernay was going to get it. He just missed, I think, in one of the shuttle drills or something. So I try not to go in with any sort of expectation, but seeing Pittman on that list kind of makes me go, okay, that one makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and we have talked about Pittman, I think, off and on dating back to the Senior Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yep.
And I have watched a little bit of him off and on since then. But as soon as that study came out this morning of yours, I went ahead and jumped deep into the tape on him. I did 6 of his games from last season and contextualized all of them. Wanted to get a real good look because a lot of people are high on Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, there are a lot of people that think this kid's a bona fide second-round pick, a guy that probably going to surely probably be right in the wheelhouse for the Steelers at 49 overall. I broke down and looked at all this receptions and targets in these 6 games that I have on the site there. He's not a bad player, okay? Here's my overview on him. He's got good hands. I think he's probably an above-average route runner. I like the way he sinks his hips. I like the way he breaks back toward the ball on some of these curls and comebacks. It really helps his quarterback out. He did have some deep ball receptions, albeit I think if you look close at all the ones that were 30 or more yards down the field, there are a lot of blown or missed assignments or just bad defense in there. He's not a burner, right?
Yeah, my question with Michael Pittman Jr., I had watching his tape, watching him at Mobile a little bit, was does he have the long speed? And he had a really good combine workout. I'm not going to deny that at all. Running 4.52, 36.5-inch vertical, 3-cone times and agility times were excellent. I still don't know if that quite translates to the tape. Is that long speed?
I didn't see the burner in him. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and not even a burner, because I knew he wasn't going to be a true over the top kind of guy. But what was his speed? Is he a 4.5 guy, or is he like a higher 4.6 type of guy? And he ran in the low 4.5s, which is good for him. Do I see that low 4.5 time on speed though? Still, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, that's questionable. I mean, he is he a 4.52 guy, or is he a 4.55 guy? I don't see him as a 4.6 guy. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. I think he plays quicker than that. Here's the other thing. We have a reverse James Washington here.
Played on the right side. Is that what you mean?
He played on the left side of the offense.
Oh, yeah. Washington was on the right side.
Washington was predominantly on the right side throughout his, throughout most of his, or all of his career at Oklahoma State. Now, I have not gone back past 2019, but I'm willing to bet what I'm going to find is Pittman once again, because, I mean, why wouldn't you move a guy around more than that? You know,
right.
Boy, you want, I mean, 98% of his catches that I contextualize, or not really, 98% of his targets all started with him lined up on the left side of the formation and catching the ball on the left side of the field. And by left side of the field, I mean on the left side of the outside hash. You know, in the middle of the field there. Very few were caught in between the hashes. And I think only 2 or 3 came with him on the other side of the field. I think one was kind of one of those orbit motion screens, you know, where he's coming from behind the quarterback on kind of an orbit motion, and snapping the football, he gets the screen out on the right side of the field. That was one of them there. Okay after the catch, he averaged something like 5 point something yards after the catch with them. His average targeted depth and his average completed depth were right on top of each other, about 10 or 11 yards on each of those there. But he really, to me, Alex, he really projects more as kind of as a possession kind of receiver. There was a lot of these quick slants, a lot of kind of the skinny post, and a lot of the out routes, and then occasionally him going down the numbers or just outside left of the numbers down the field. And really that's it with him. When you watch a large portion of his tape, you come away thinking, okay, well, he's consistent and all, but where's the wow? What's the one thing, that you said about, I forget, if we're talking about tight ends or whatever, where's the one thing that you say, this is what this guy is,
Mm-hmm. The defining trait.
Right. The defining trait. That's what I was looking for. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought at the Senior Bowl, he did get hurt late in the week. He didn't practice in the last day. I don't believe he played in the game, but it was all okay. It's all okay. And this comparison I'm going to make is going to sound probably higher than what I intended to be, but I kind of get like a poor man's Michael Thomas of the Saints. We're not talking that kind of caliber of play, but just kind of a big body, similar profile overall. Maybe doesn't do like one thing amazing, but just has a well-rounded type game. But again, a worse version of Michael Thomas. I don't want to make that compliment sound too high. So that's the question. Yeah, where would he play? Where would he line up? What element could he give you that's needed and different for the Steelers offense? Those are the things I will struggle with.
He didn't line up much in the slot, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
He's more of an outside the numbers guy. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
but he's productive. He's got the bloodlines. There are certainly in this study too. There are a lot of boxes that he does check as well as anybody.
The boxes checked speak louder to me than the tape does. Does that make sense?
I think he did actually really well. I agree with that 100%.
And is that the kind of player that the Steelers go after, though? You know, at least with James Washington, man, I remember saying to myself, boys, the separation down the field, a lot of deep passes. You know, he wasn't a burner by any stretch of the imagination, but he got open. He would separate with the ball in the air. Okay, yeah. I can't say that about Michael Pittman. And where are the contested catches at for this kid? Mm-hmm. You know,
you're right. He's a possession receiver,
right? You know, where are the down? You know, he's got such a nice body and a nice build and good hands. Where are those contested catches with? If it does it sound like I come away kind of meh? You know, nose turned down on him.
You're clearly not in a fan club of Michael Pittman Jr. It sounds like.
Well, you would be correct. Look, I don't think he's awful. It's just, where's that defining trait at? Where's that one thing other than a boxes check that make you think, oh yeah, the Steelers are going to be on this guy? You know, look, Duvernay, you know, is different build and all like that. But boy, you watch that kid play and you watch him work out a slot and you watch him be able to separate a little bit with the ball down the field and you see him make a few and then you look at the check boxes on top of it. And then you say, oh, yeah, this guy could be a Steeler. I just don't get the sense that this guy is a Steeler.
I'm playing a lot of devil's advocate today, Dave. But if you could remember back, I know these things all run together. But was there that defining trait with Juju? Because Pittman, for obvious reasons, kind of similar size. Pittman a little bit bigger. And obviously the school, USC, does get a lot of Juju comparisons. And I guess the question with Juju was, did he have that defining trait coming out of USC?
Well, let's be honest. Neither one of us were on Juju ahead of the draft.
Yeah, ahead of it, no. I will say after the draft, though, I thought Juju's football IQ for how young he was off the charts good. And that was kind of me the trait that he had.
And the contested catches were there, the playing on both sides of the line, the moving around, the blocking. It made a lot. I'm just sorry that neither one of us looked at Juju in deep. And look, we miss. I mean,
there was just no evidence. They had a 15-minute interview with the combine, and that was it. They literally talked to him once throughout the whole process.
Right, and there's only so many players I can do deep studies on. You know,
we had a smaller team back then, I think, as well. Too,
right. You know, and so looking at him after the fact, after the draft, and immediately diving into his tape, you can say, oh, yeah, this makes a whole bunch of sense, you know. And then, obviously, hearing him talk and backstory and all like that, you got it. But it's easier to say that after the pick's been made.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just sorry that neither one of us have had the ability to look back and say, well, was this guy, you know, to be able to say beforehand, because I know I looked at his highlight stuff, but I mean I didn't do contextualizations on him, and I know he was a bit of a surprise for you on draft day as well too. So I guess really I can't answer your question.
Yeah,
you know?
That's fair. Yeah, I just came to mind because I just he does get some of those comparisons. So we'll see. Yeah, again from a tape standpoint. Does he make the most sense? Probably not. From the boxes standpoint, he does. I think if you're going to draft him, though, you probably got to take him at 49 because I don't think he's going to be there at 102 based on everything that he's projected to do and go.
And I like him enough to get him maybe in the fourth, but I don't think he's going to last that long. Yeah. My where I sit right now without having watched 2018 tape on him. I find myself feeling I'd be disappointed if they grabbed him at 49.
What about 102 if he were to slip somehow? 102. That's not a good sound.
I could stomach it. I guess it all depends. What did you get me at 49?
Yeah, okay. 102 and a lot of Pepto, and Dave can live with that.
Yeah, tell me what you got me at 49, and maybe I could, the spoonful of sugar will make the medicine go down a little bit. I just not over. And look, I might be wrong. This kid might like him. Who knows? Maybe he does turn up to be the next Michael Thomas there. I see kind of I don't see a guy that would be a true number one in the league. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
with you.
I think he's a little overhyped, quite honestly. I mean, PFF I think has a second round grade on him right now. They seem to really like him, and plus, isn't he a little bit older? Isn't he like 23 or?
I think he is. Yeah, he's a senior, so he's obviously a little bit older. He's not an underclassman. But man, Tomlin, I mean, you know how Tomlin can be with coaching some of these bloodlines sometimes. He loves that stuff. And dude coached his dad, like, or was
Right.
on the same team as his dad. Didn't coach him directly. Obviously, running back Michael Pittman. But
Yeah,
I'm just,
I used to draft Michael Pittman in my fantasy leagues. That's how old I am.
So we'll see. Again, he's kind of that polarizing figure because boxes check, he does it as well as anybody. On the field, not quite. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go.
Is that a fair assessment of him? I mean, from what I told you about him, is that kind of what your feelings are on him?
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar. We're in the same boat on that. Where I don't think either of us would love the pick. I may like it a little more than you. Even at 49, though I would not love the pick at 49, but I could just see it happening because it just feels like this guy is, not, I wouldn't say destined to be a Steeler, but would really make a lot of sense. He fits well, I would say.
Tell me about Swain.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about Swain. We do have a report on him. This was back in early March from Josh Carney. He is 6 foot 199, or actually, 6 foot 197 is what he came in at the combine. Ran a 4.46, 36.5-inch vertical. Good numbers across the board. In Josh's profile, he calls him a savvy route runner that changes up pace and routes to throw defenders off balance. Diverse route tree and is fluent in each routes. Fights his butt off as a blocker and solid technique. On the bad, he says the frame is a little concerned. Plate strength is an issue. Only 1 year of production as well. So that's on Freddie Swain. So definitely a different type than Michael Pittman Jr., but a little bit faster, a little bit smaller. That's Freddie Swain.
Looks like. Well, I hope you couldn't hear that audio there. You look at his look at Swain's stats. 38 receptions last year, and going into last year, he had 30 total, so he's got 68 career college receptions. That doesn't meet the threshold,
right?
The production threshold that we have kind of self-imposed on the Steelers and wide receivers over the years either. I know nothing about the kid, so I don't know how much I'm relying on what Josh has written and what you tell me on him.
Yeah, I think the production's going to be the big issue for Swain. So obviously of the two, Pittman jumps out at me a whole lot more than Swain did, but Swain checked every box, and I put those guys in there. Anyway, the guys that were one box away, I do like to include
what does Swain run?
4.46.
Okay.
Good time.
Is he a good kid? Do you know much about his background or anything? Or
Josh doesn't have any sort of seemingly red flags on this, so no, I couldn't tell you a whole lot either way. There's just so many Florida receivers this year, so I will say for lack of production, he got stuck behind Tyree Cleveland. Of course, Van Jefferson was there. Florida didn't have a prolific offense, so obviously production's an issue. If it's not there, it's not there, but he was kind of playing with a lot of talent around him.
I wonder what does Josh have on him as a grade? I missed that.
I had let me scroll down here and see. He's got late day 3 priority undrafted free agent. So this could be this is not this is a pretty different dude we're talking about than Michael Pittman.
I don't know. You run that 4.4 though, that might get you drafted.
Yeah, that might. But again, in a deep receiver class, it may not mean as much. If a lot of guys that ran well, we'll see. The guys that were one box, where I like to include the guys that just missed by one box because I don't want to make this so rigid and strict. And plus, it just kind of lets us talk about some more players. The guys one box away was Gabriel Davis from Central Florida because he did not run the short shuttle. John Hightower from Boise State because he did not do the bench. Denzel Mims from Baylor, his short shuttle was 4.43. The benchmark is 4.30 or better. And KJ Osborne from the U, who also missed in the short shuttle with a 4.35. Again, the benchmark is 4.30. So Mims, no surprise to see him on listings there, 49. Man, it'd be hard not to take Denzel Mims.
Oh Lord, you want to talk about traits, man? I mean, you want to talk about guys that you think would fit. I mean, that guy's it. I mean, that guy, you get excited by watching his tape.
Yeah.
And
he's got the hearts and smarts. He loves the block. Like, his blocking might be the best of any receiver, which is crazy. He's a good kid. I talked to him at the Senior Bowl. I think he was raised by his grandma, and he's doing it for her and trying to make her proud and give back. Like, this is a good kid with an amazing skill set.
Right. I mean, when we've covered, Justin Jefferson out of LSU, Duvernay, Mims, Jalen Reagor, who else? I mean,
Van Jefferson, I've talked
about.
Van
Jefferson, I think, could potentially be a fit. I mean, those are guys that you really could see, if the Steelers drafted a wide receiver early, being one of those guys.
To answer your earlier question, the one guy that I thought was going to make this list and did not was Jalen Reagor, and he participated in everything. He just was too slow in the short shuttle and the three cones. So I was a little surprised by that. But I remember at the combine, he did come in heavy. He came in at like 207, and he kind of was slow and everything. So I think if he was at his normal playing weight, he probably would have, crushed this threshold.
The best thing about these two is look, the two names that you had on that list that fit. I obviously knew some about Pittman, ahead of this, but him being square on your list caused me to take a deep dive in his film today. And then Swain, I'm going to want to learn a little bit more about him now as well. And once again, it's too bad that we're not going to have. There's several guys that are probably not going to be make the list because they just didn't.
Right.
They didn't have the pro day or whatnot. To follow up on not doing some things at the combine.
Yeah, Hightower from Boise State's a guy I want to go back on. I've heard some good things about him. I don't know a whole lot about his game, but he's someone I probably want to circle back on. Any receivers that you want to know where they missed? Anyone that comes to mind, just off the top of your head?
Where did Jefferson miss at?
Van or Justin? Justin.
I like me some Justin.
You're a big fan of Justin Jefferson.
I like me some Justin Jefferson.
He's the son you never had. Jefferson did not bench, and he did not do anything in the shuttles, so he only missed because he didn't participate in the bench or the shuttles.
If you think if he had do you think he would have? What was the bench threshold?
It's only 10. I think he would have done it.
I think he could have got that.
Yeah, the shuttle is a little bit more questionable, but I'm guessing he would have made the shuttles too.
Yeah.
So again, it's the one fundamental flaw. If guys don't participate, that's where but that's the thing NFL teams wrestle with. If a guy doesn't test, you don't have the metrics for it. It's harder to evaluate him. That's
right.
These guys to test. So some other names, Jerry Jeudy did not participate in the three cone, the bench. He actually missed it, and he ran the short shuttle, missed it, I believe. A lot of guys were hurt. Guys like Van Jefferson obviously was hurt. Trying to think of any other. James Prochet missed in the 40 and the short shuttle. Who else do we have here? That's basically the whole list. If you guys want to know about any one particular player, let me know because I have everything. Right now, KJ Hamler was in height, weight, and obviously he didn't do any testing. But with Hamler, I know we hear a lot about Hamler becoming a Steeler, but 178 pounds at that height, the history there is not good for his odds of becoming a Steeler.
All right, let's make a little prediction here. Michael Pittman going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds?
That is close. That is tough. I know you're going to say false on this, so I'll go the other way and say true. He will be.
Well, at least one of us will be right here. So, I came away from that thing thinking, man, what do you think about a kid playing just one side like that?
Yeah, I want to know why, especially for a senior. He played there for that long. Why didn't he move around more? Were they just comfortable with one spot, where other guys just taking the other spots? For an underclassman, maybe I would understand it, but for a senior, a little more curious.
Right. And why haven't we heard more about that? Did you know that going?
No, I did not know that. That's good information.
So that's one of the things that you can. Sometimes you can tell some of these people that don't watch film, because they should. You would think that some of these, that you would have read that by now.
Right. And the question is, knowing that, how much is he going to be able to contribute in year one? Because James Washington, that was a big issue he had year one.
Sure
and
was.
Now we're dealing with an offseason where he's not going to get any work this offseason. Like his first work might be training camp. It might be later than that. There's no offseason program. So this is a guy that is going to be very limited in year one. You cannot count on Pittman. Even if you like him as a player, and that's fine, you cannot count on him to produce in year one.
I agree.
All right, Dave. Anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to get to some reader emails?
What
position do you want to see next in this?
I want to see the running backs now.
You want to see the running backs? All right, we'll do the running backs next. I'll do that soon because I am curious myself.
Who do you think? You think there's going to be a lot of surprises? A lot of people are going to be upset that a lot of guys ain't going to make that.
The issue is that their weight requirement is going to probably be 220 pounds, because it's all they draft, and so that's going to disqualify a lot of guys. Like Jonathan Taylor should make the list as long as he did everything, and I think that he did. But a lot of guys are probably going to miss just because of weight, if I had to guess.
All right. What else do we have?
That was all I had written down. If you have anything else you want to talk about, go for it, or we can get to some reader emails.
What do you think about the Ravens missing the deal with Brockers falling through with the Ravens and them circling back around and picking up? I like Derek Wolfe in his prime. I was a big Derek Wolfe fan in his prime, and he's coming off I think a career year sack wise for him. But he
7
is
sacks, right?
Right.
12 games.
And the thing is, though, they got a couple of them 30 somethings over there now. So What did you think about them losing out on Brock? Do you think they would have still traded Wormley away had they known that Brockers deal would have fell through?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I know that Wormley's not exactly this dynamic player one way or the other, but maybe they would have certainly thought about it a little bit more, maybe asked for more, and maybe that would have prevented the deal from going through. I'm not sure. I know the Brockers deal was giving me paranoia about Ebron because Brockers was done because of an ankle injury, and Ebron had 2 surgeries on ankles, and I'm starting to try to connect dots, and the cynic I am, I started getting worried. So I don't know, but I mean, Wolf's a good player, but his health has obviously been fleeting, and it's a downgrade for Baltimore.
I think it is a downgrade a little bit. I think a healthier look. I was a huge Wolf fan coming out, but getting a little bit older now, and that he had to be second fiddle and all that. To me is a little bit of a sign.
Yeah, for sure. And run defense was an issue for Baltimore last year. When they lost Brandon Williams and they lose Michael Pierce, and when Williams was hurt last year, their run defense did suffer. So Baltimore usually has had good nose tackles that are stout, stop the run well, but that's going to be a concern if Williams were to miss time or whenever he's rotated out of in their base defense.
All right, you ready for some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Darren Boyer writes in, "Hi, Dave and Alex. Pre-draft is some of my favorite times on the football calendar. I'm really enjoying free agency and draft debates taking place on the site these days, so thanks for providing the awesome platform. You're welcome. I know you guys have traditionally been against trade scenario mock drafts, but I've heard you both endorse the idea of trading back from 49. Based on my own YouTube scouting, I think there will be some good players to be had in picks 60 to 75, but there is a drop-off around pick 90. How about one trade-back scenario mock draft from you and Alex this year? I know Alex did one in his off-season plan, but that was pre-free agency. Also, Dave, how would you rank these three in overall blocking ability? Ebron, Albert O, and Hines Ward. Keep up the entertaining.
I love that question.
That is a great question there. Take the first part about us doing mocks with trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was my mock off season, which I just do for fun. It's obviously hard, it's just hard for us to project and predict, just because you never know what's going to happen. But if you were to move back, you go back, let's say,
6 or 7.
10. Yeah, I was thinking even a little bit more than that. Like in my mock off season, for example, I was trying to go back no more than 10 spots to stay ahead of Baltimore at pick 60. So if you could do 59 with Seattle, 58 with Minnesota. I like trading with NFC teams as opposed to AFC teams. Obviously, you can do either one. So I'm thinking about 10 spots, and that could get you, I think, somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round type pick. So I don't have an exact scenario to lay out for you right now off the top of my head, but I'd be looking to go back. I'd try to stay ahead of Baltimore. 60 would be my goal.
Look, I'm not against it and all, Darren. I just don't want to do a mock and have to do that. It's hard enough. You ought to see us try to do these mocks and us write them up and the moving around that we do halfway through them. And if there was a trash can inside that website, it'd be full. I
do like 10 different versions, honestly. I have a WordPad just like full of these.
I do too. I do it, and plus I spell bad on top of it. My drafts look like they come from China.
It comes out clean, at least. It all comes out in the wash.
It comes out clean, but they look like hell leading up to it, though. And I'll put a couple guys in, and I'll move them around. I'll scratch this guy, and because I don't know why you try to build a perfect mock draft. I don't know why in the hell you try to do such an animal, but you just do. So Darren, I probably have about 2 more mocks left in me before it's time for the real draft. I doubt I'm going to do anything. I'm not opposed to. I think the best ideal scenario, and I think Alex has said this for several weeks now, is to potentially maybe trade down from 49 a few spots, but trying to predict that stuff, man, it is out of this world. And remember, right now the Steelers are the only team that only has one pick in the first 100.
Yeah, I think that's what Matthew said. Yeah, only team with 1 pick in the top 100. So I like to trade down because of that.
Let's see. He says, also, Dave, how would you rank the overall blocking ability of Ebron, Albert O, and Hines Ward? Hines Ward first, Albert O second, and Ebron third.
Oh, Albert O ahead of Ebron. That's cold. It's kind of a toss-up, though.
That's just what it is.
Yeah. Let me give you just a scenario, and I think this is, again, I'm kind of leaning on my mock offseason and kind of how I try to think about things. Let's say the Steelers trade back. They will trade pick number 49 to Seattle and get in return pick number 59 and pick 101. So now Pittsburgh would have 59, 101, and 102 give him the back-to-back picks at the end of the third round.
Have at it.
Just one. I'm not saying I would love it, but that's just one scenario. I'm just doing the quick math here off the top of my head. Trade value chart kind of makes sense. There's an idea.
If you tell me that it fits, then okay. All right, Jim Bendis writes in, what will it take for the Steelers to bring in a quarterback? Oh, Lord. Jim writes in, despite the entire Steelers organization saying that they are good with the quarterback situation, the world thinks otherwise. So, tell me what it will take for the Steelers to break down to either sign Jameis Winston or draft Jalen Hurts. Myself, Winston would need to come to the Steelers for just about vet minimum for 3 years, or Hurts being available to them in the 5th round. Chances of either are not great. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't see the scenario where it happens. Like Colbert would have to retire suddenly or something. You
know anybody that changes water into wine?
Well, Easter's coming up.
Yeah, I guess.
Winston would have to take the absolute minimum. Something would have to happen where Rudolph got hurt or something. I just
there would have to be a terrible flood, locust.
Yeah,
my suit didn't come back from the cleaners. There was a flood, a terrible fire, locust. It wasn't my fault. You gotta watch the Blues Brothers, man. You gotta rent that movie.
I got some free time now.
Yeah, you got plenty. You should be watching Cool Hand Luke. You should be watching the Blues Brothers. I'm talking about the original uncut versions, because it's a lot better with all the cussing and whatnot in it in both those movies there. But yeah, you got to get on the Jim. Look. What's more likely to happen? I guess draft Jalen Hurts, but I'm going to be down a couple of TVs. I'm gonna have to run out to Sam's Club and buy some more TVs if a couple of these things come true. If they draft a running back early and end up drafting a quarterback. And if they drafted tight end early now too,
Chad Reuter would get his way. He's been mocking Jalen Hurts.
Oh Lord, that guy that's lazy. That's lazy. Yeah. I mean, look, I know it's hard to do those, full 3 or 4 rounds. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Okay, but if you're gonna do it, and you're gonna do 3-4 versions of it, for Christ's sakes, man,
mix it up a little.
Mix it up a little bit. That guy I don't know if he's a Steelers fan. I don't know if he's just trying to troll us or what. But he's done a good job if that's what he's what he's trying to do. All right, Doogie Hauser writes in, how about a virtual season? Could it be done? Alex did the off-season sim. Can it be carried forward? Would be interesting to look back once things start again. Searching for topics. What about some of your previous guests, the beat writers of the week's opponent? Everyone is probably scrambling for football, anything. Look, I mean, we usually will have the beat writers on after the draft again, leading up leading on up to that stuff. Right now, yeah, I mean, look, we're still in pre-draft mode now that we're coming out of free agency now. So, Alex and I are going to be having a lot of debates about a lot of players and breaking down a lot more players moving forward here into the month of April and all like that. I don't know. Is there any type of off-season sim or anything that you could do, Alex?
Well, is he asking what we can do now to pass the time, or if there's no football in the fall?
I don't know. He just no, he doesn't. He didn't put time restrictions on it.
Okay. My first thought when he said about virtual football was that he was talking about, what happens if there's no football in the fall or things get pushed back. Like, the NBA players are playing 2K, iRacing is replacing NASCAR. I don't know what would happen with the NFL and how we would handle things, how the league would handle things. I guess there'd be some Madden tournaments, but Madden's such a broken game that it wouldn't be anything close to even 2K, or certainly not what iRacing does. So I don't know, but for us right now, we're basically business as usual. Wouldn't you agree, Dave? Like, nothing's really changed for us right now because nothing's really changed for the NFL in the short term.
Yeah, here's the thing that hurts us right now. Right now, usually we're writing about pre-draft visits, coming out of pro days and dedicating a post, a couple of posts a week to where did Tomlin and Colbert show up at, and
we got robbed this year, Dave. No first round pick,
we
no
really
pro
did. I feel, yeah. I mean, we've all of it, man. We can't even go searching the pro day tape, to see the scouts showing up and those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, not having that stuff really is kind of content. And then look, I mean, also the Steelers not having a first round pick. Some of these mock drafts that, the major media first round mock drafts that come out, there's probably about 7 versions of each, that come out through the also. Well, if they're only only the first round, well, then obviously, there's not going to be a Steelers pick in that. Either. So that's somewhere else where we're kind of shorted as well too. So what do we do? Well, we try to do these contextualizations. We do these player profiles, and Alex and I try to have as many debates as we can about players.
Yeah, the good thing though is of all the sports, the NFL has been the least affected, obviously because it's in the middle of its off season. But at least they've been relatively on schedule, and that's kind of kept things pretty business as usual for things around here.
Derek Demi writes in, David Ice, you guys are my go-to for Steelers information. What is your go-to to find the latest Steelers NFL news? How do you see? Okay, that question can be begin and end on Twitter. Period. I mean,
pretty much. Yep.
That everything usually starts right on Twitter, man. And really that's the go-to on a lot of stuff, for us. I mean, that's where that's where most, probably 98% of the Steelers news and all originates on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I'll check Steelers.com. Obviously, they post interviews. Sometimes I won't see it on Twitter. And then for NFL news, I go to Roto-World. That's my go-to place for NFL news across the league.
They've kind of gotten that site's gone downhill the last couple of years, I think.
Yeah, but it's just a good place to get news really quickly and just get some quick nuggets of information.
I'm not a big Greg. What's his name on NFL Network now? Greg.
I don't know. Cosell?
No, not Cosell. The younger Greg. He used to be at Roto-World for all those years, and at least he knew how to disseminate news from speculation.
Yeah, like the Bouchette thing they wrote about. Right, that's how I saw that. Yeah, a little crazy.
His second question here, Derek writes in, how do you see Antoine Winfield Jr. fitting into the Steelers defense? How would he best be utilized?
I think he's someone that can move around. I think versatility, whether you're talking slot corner, some safety work, kind of a chess piece. A little undersized, obviously, but someone that I think has the profile to really move around a lot. And somebody that, like Pittman Jr.,
that guy could be the guy right there.
Winfield, yeah. I mean, again, players that Tomlin knows, NFL bloodlines, coached, Winfield Sr. at Minnesota, I believe. So, that's someone to consider, I think, for 49. And Pittman, maybe even more so than Pittman, I would consider Winfield at 49 in terms of what is more likely to happen.
I would go with that as well, too. And I had Winfield, I think, I don't know, he's kind of in that, to me, his value is more just outside the top 50, but obviously not down maybe to the Steelers. He's obviously a top 100
like a top
player.
Like a top 75 kind of
guy. So if you want to talk about an idea, maybe trading back and picking up some picks,
right.
Maybe if you thought that maybe you could get him in there, that would be the reason to do it, because I feel that Antoine Winfield Jr. at 49 is overdrafting him a little bit, but when does that stop the Steelers before?
Especially in the secondary.
Right. Sinquez Golson, what round was he? Second, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Golson second.
And I thought he was kind of overdrafted by little.
Are you against the idea? I've gotten some pushback on this. Are you against the idea of drafting a safety just because they've addressed the pick highly with Fitzpatrick and Edmonds? Would you be against drafting a safety of 49 because of that?
No, because I think that if you got the right safety, you could do a lot with him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah,
I think he could still. I'm not drafting one just because I'm drafting one for several reasons. A, you don't have kind of a backup free safety type really right
or
now.
Strong safety type.
Or strong safety. I mean, it'd be nice to have one that could also function maybe as a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
So and there's very few of them out there in this year's draft that can probably potentially give you a box, a center fielder, and potentially a nickel, kind of guy. So if you were to come with me and say, look, this is the top free safety only, or this is the top strong safety only type player in this year's draft, I'd say, I'd be a little bit less likely to want to take him, at that spot. However, if you give me a guy that's kind of versatile like maybe the kid in Texas at Jones or with Winfield Jr., yeah, I'm up for it. You're not going to get pushback from me on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get the argument. People say, "Oh, you've already invested so much in safety. Why are you going to invest in it again?" But to me, you put that aside. Forget about what you've done in the past. What do you need now? You need safety help, and you need to make a pretty heavy investment in that. I think to get someone that you can, come in and hopefully be that backup right away. Essentially, is what that guy's role is going to be. So I'm not going to not draft a safety just because I've drafted them high in the past.
I think you could get him on the field during his rookie season too. Dime or whatever, right?
Well, I'm a little less sure that obviously you're one snap away from injury happening and opening up that door. But if everyone's healthy, I do struggle because who are you taking off the field and dime? Sutton, Hilton? I mean, who's going to go?
All right, answer his question about how would he be best be utilized.
Well, like I said, it could be that chess piece. It is hard to see that path initially without an injury, but yeah, he's slot, nickel, safety, probably play either safety spot. He's a chess piece that can line up all over the field, and that has obviously a ton of value in today's NFL.
All right. Austin writes in, let's see. Hey, guys, discussion that came up in the comment thread on Steelers Depot article over the weekend. Would you trade Juju for a first-round pick right now? Let's assume it'd be a mid to late first, as it's nearly impossible to see the team landing a top 10 pick for him. Would you take that deal? Arguments for trading Juju seem to be based on him not being back in Pittsburgh come 2021. In my opinion, the Steelers are in win-now mode, and trading the only receiver Ben is rapport with makes no sense. I defer to Dave on the cap situation with the team, but I'd imagine they'll work to find room to retain him either with an extension or with the tag pass this season. I don't think you're going to find a team to give you a first-round pick for him.
Yeah. Well, just, I guess, in the hypothetical.
Okay, even in the hypothetical, oh, man. I wouldn't.
Unless I knew somehow that I was so confident that he would not get re-signed, I'm not trading him for a first round pick.
Right, and obviously not going to get a top 10 for him. If you're having me believe that you could get a first round pick for him. Everybody's all worked up already. We're not even through the 2020 offseason, and people are kind of, well, what's going to happen in 2000? They want the sky to start falling in 2020. We don't even know what the cap number is going to be.
Mm-hmm. And it should be pretty high. We think it should be.
You would think. I think some of the more conservative projections are like $215 million. And that's a $17 million jump, right?
Yep.
And there's others out there from 230 to 240 million, So, yeah, if it goes up to 220 or more, they're going to have plenty of room, I think, Once people have seen this offseason how you can massage that thing, and yeah, you won't have Ben to massage or anything like that, but you're probably going to have contracts of Hayward and Bud Dupree at the front of the line to get restructured there.
Yeah. So again, I'm with you with the mentality of winning now, and you don't want to trade away, Ben's best weapon, and I don't want to be prisoner of the moment either. We know how good Juju was 2 years ago, and obviously last year with his injuries and the quarterback situation, it made everything a mess. Juju just did not have a great year, obviously, but I'm not going to be so reactionary to the moment. And as you said, win now, and I'm in that camp too. I'm not trading away for future talent.
All right, let's see what Eric P. has to say here. Hello, Dave and Alex. I enjoyed a terrible podcast and appreciate the hard work you guys put in to keep it worth listening to over other podcasts. Here's a question I have for you, and maybe it's been addressed already, but I'll ask anyway. With Tom Brady now in Tampa, do you think that maybe the Buccaneers get featured on HBO's Hard Knocks this summer, provided the coronavirus has subsided in time? Thanks again. Eric, here's the thing. Technically, I don't think the Buccaneers have to do it if they don't want to, because they have been on the show within the last 10 years.
Right. They weren't one of the eligible teams, and I'm sure Bruce Arians is not going to voluntarily bring cameras in.
I don't think he is. I don't think Brady would want them around either. Now, if they were on the list of teams that could potentially, be up for it and not be able to say no to it, yeah, I think that would be a possibility. But I think one of the rules is I believe a team can say no if they have been on the show within the last 10 years. And obviously, the Buccaneers was just a few years ago, wasn't it, Alex? It was Dirk Cutter's when Dirk,
was it?
Yeah, Dirk Cutter was head coach, and Jameis, and
okay.
That was just a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. 3 years ago, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, the eligible teams, if I'm remembering it correctly, was Denver, Detroit, and I believe Jacksonville, because they didn't fire Marone, and so those are in Pittsburgh. Those are the four. And the best way the Steelers don't get on Hard Knocks is just if there's not Hard Knocks this year because of the coronavirus.
I would think so. Right now, I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. We'll see.
It's very possible. Thanks for the question, Eric. And let's see. I think I got one more in here. You're gonna love this one.
Oh, good.
From Jason King. He writes, "Hi from Raleigh, North Carolina. I asked Ed Bouchette why he considered Chuks Okorafor an option at left guard in his mailbag at the Athletic. See the attached screenshot." He says, "No, he has not played guard. Neither did Ramon Foster, who was a tackle at Tennessee. I think he is an option there because I was told he is an option there."
Okay, well, I don't know who. Obviously, we don't know who told him that. I assume somebody within the organization. To try to connect it with Foster is pretty flimsy, but I'm still very skeptical of it.
I am too, and people say, "Well, what do you think about Chuks Okorafor playing left guard?" Well, I don't know how you can expect me to answer that because we've never seen him do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in college. I mean, and this is a guy that was kind of a late to football too, right?
Yeah, he started playing pretty later in life. He needs to learn how to play tackle. I want to keep him in one spot. Still, as a relatively young guy, teach him how to play tackle. And plus, I mean, he's a guard. He's going to be your left tackle because it's probably not going to be Banner and probably not going to be Filer. So even if Okorafor loses the battle at right tackle, then maybe he could be the backup swing guy at either tackle spot.
Right. I'm not seeing it, Jason. Look, I'd be forced to say I guarantee you it's not going to happen, but I would be quite surprised if we saw it. I think it's going to come down to Stefan Wisniewski or Matt Filer. I think that's the most logical. Why would you? And look, if you get short, if you don't have the OTAs and all like that too.
Sure, good point.
Are you gonna take a guy that's never played left guard and go, all right, training camp's open and get in there?
Yeah. It's a great point. Yeah, I'm in the I'll believe it when I see it camp with a.
There we go. That will be my excuse as well too. I like that. Let's see here. I think that's got most of them. A lot of good questions today. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good questions. You got anything else for us?
Nope, that's everything. We'll be back on Friday to talk about whatever else is happening. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. You can donate that way. Also, and I've been getting a lot of questions about this lately, the ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com is $25 and it lasts 1 year from the time that you sign up. And what you do is you go in there, you go to SteelersDepot.com and you hit the ad-free button up there, top right navigational bar. You hit that, you sign up, you create yourself a username and a password. Make sure you write down the username and password because you'll need that to log into the site so you can get the ad-free version of the site. So that's how you do that. So immediately after you sign up for the ad-free, up there in the navigational bar, you should see right next to, is it right next to ad-free? I think it is. It's right to the right of ad-free. It says login. You click that, it'll take you to the login page where you enter in your username and your password, and that once you're logged in, you will have an ad-free version of the site that way. So that's how that works. A lot of people say, well, if I get the ad-free version, if I buy one ad-free version, can I also get the mobile version? The answer is yes, but once again, whatever device you are on, you have to go to the login link, click the login link, and then enter your username and password, and then it should stay stored in there or whatnot, and then you'll have the ad-free version of both sites there. So we've got a couple of questions about how that works, and that's how it works. And look, a lot of people are still signing up for this, and we don't think there's any issue with the sign-up process because I think I've only had in the last 2 months one person that has had it had something go wrong with it or something like that. Anything else?
I think it's well worth it. No, I was just saying, I think it's well worth it. And yes, it's a one-time sign-up. You get it for mobile and on desktop, laptop. You don't have to have separate accounts or separate sign-ups. It's all in one.
Right, and it's the best $25 you'll probably spend. You'll help us, and you'll help yourself along the way. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.